And you're watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Still to come on the program. China-U.S. relations at crossroads. Two well-respected Chinese scholars present possible solutions right after this break.
In this episode of Travelogue, I set out on a spiritual journey to discover Zen. I'll learn how Zen inspired Steve Jobs to create his iconic designs, and how its principles help us to lead a more rewarding, mindful life. You're watching breaking news on CGTN.
Welcome to the world today on CGTN.
The world is changing fast, taking all our lives with it. But we can change it too, by seeking answers to problems through discussions and debates. On World Insight, I ask direct questions to real people in the know, seek genuine answers, but respect diverse perspectives. Our live global debates tackle the most critical issues head-on. World Insight with Tian Wei go beyond the headlines.
Welcome back. You're still watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. The program is coming to you Monday to Friday on CGTN. Last Saturday, over dinner in Buenos Aires, Chinese President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump reached some consensus on working out a way for the two countries to work together to resolve the trade dispute. Since then, questions have been posed about the likelihood of the two sides reaching a deal. China's Commerce Ministry says it's optimistic it can reach a consensus with the U.S. on their lengthy trade dispute over the next 90 days, and that both sides will ultimately try to remove all tariffs.
The recent meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump was successful. They have reached an important consensus on their trade issues. China and the U.S. share extensive common interests on trade and have a natural, complementary and structural dependency on each other. Our negotiating teams are maintaining smooth communication and good cooperation. We are confident we can reach an agreement with the U.S. in the next 90 days.
90 days, just how much can be achieved within 3 months? What lies ahead for China and the United States beyond the timeline? And how will issues beyond the tariffs be resolved? For example, strategic issues between China and the United States. I pose these questions to Professor Jia Qingguo at the Peking University's School of International Studies. And here is what he has to say. Time is really the issue here, isn't it?
I think time is, as you put it, very important for both sides. For Trump, you know, the good days of high growth of U.S. economy cannot last forever. Okay? And it's in his interest to prolong it as much as possible.
Yes.
Okay? You know, especially in the light of the fact that the election is coming up in 2 years. Okay, how to keep the U.S. economy up instead of letting it fall, especially is try to complicate it with the trade war. That should be his top priority. As far as China is concerned, China's economy has been weak and weakening. So China also wants to have a quick fix of the trade war problem, and then so that China can, maintain the current level and try to increase the growth in the days to come. And China has so many things to do at home. A well-performing economy is essential for China to accomplish those goals. If the relationship has a so-called soft landing, that shows how strong the ties between the two countries are. Right. Because we are talking about a group of very hawkish people in the Trump administration. Okay? And they are in charge. They are making the demands on China. And we are also talking about a very strong leader on the Chinese side. So if these two groups of people can work together to find some solution, pragmatic solution for the two countries, the relationship is safe. Okay,
so this will be a great test.
We may not pass the test. I don't know. I just think that the chance for us to pass the test is still quite high. Yeah.
Some of those in the world are trying to decouple China from whether it's the international trade system or the international governance. Of course, they can't do that, as we all know, but what and how will China react to such efforts will also be extremely crucial for China's own choice of its future.
Well, the best thing that China can do is first not to be misled by those attempts. Okay? They want to decouple. I'll decouple anyway with you. I think it's not the right way. And secondly, I think China should reflect on itself. Why we still face all these demands and challenges from others. Of course, they have their own problems.
That's right.
But what about our problems? Okay, what can we do to improve on our side so that the decoupling argument will not go as strong as
or die out?
Yeah, would disappear eventually if you are doing well. Okay. The best response, as far as China is concerned, is try to improve itself rather than blaming others. It doesn't help. Okay.
It's what the Chinese traditionally believe as the 君子,
right?
The right practice of the 君子, the noble man. Will that work in politics?
Well, in the short run, you may appear to be naive and simplistic, but in the long run, it works. I think a country that sees the larger things, that has its own vision, and has the ability to stick to that vision and persist in doing things that it sees right, will prevail.
Before we go, I do want to invite your wisdom about how is China looking at its own role in the world. Some suggest whether China is having a hidden agenda. Some suggest is China just playing soft from the outside and having pretty much a big ego in the heart. Professor Jia, as someone who's been working on China's international policy for a long time, and knowing the nuances that is going on here in this country, what exactly is it?
I think China is still struggling to define its role in world affairs, okay? Because China is still in the process of rise, okay? As a rising power, China is no longer the China of the past, but it is not yet the China of the future. Okay? So during this period, China is also the China of the past and in part China of the future. Okay? For example, China is a developing country and a developed country at the same time. China is a poor country and a rich country at the same time. It's a weak country and a strong country at the same time. Ordinary country and a superpower at the same time. Identities define interests. Okay? China has two sets of interests at the same time on many issues. So which one is your best interest? You don't know. It's very difficult to figure out. For example, on climate change, defending the right to development versus cutting emission. Which one is China's interest? I think both are China's interests, but they are in conflict. Okay? So what kind of role can China play? National interests define China's policy. The problem is you have two sets of national interests in conflict, and then this complicates your foreign policy behavior. So during this period of time, I think Chinese are still trying to figure out what we should do, what kind of world we desire. Okay? I think it will take some time for China to develop a kind of a consensus on such kind of issues as China's identities begin to form. Okay? Like when China becomes a more developed country, a rich country, a strong country, and a superpower, then it will be much easier for China to define its role, to decide what kind of world
But
it
this
wants.
is the transition that we're talking
Right.
about.
Now
That's
we
why
are in the process of transition. It's very difficult for China to define its role.